Episode 5, Coquilles. Story by Scott Nimefro, teleplay by Scott Nimefro and Brian Fuller, directed by Guillermo Navarro. We open on Will sleepwalking through Wolf Trap, the nightmare stag on his heels. He is awoken by the police and taken home with Winston, who faithfully followed him. He goes to Hannibal's home, where they try to determine the origins of his sleepwalking. A mysterious man envisions some people being on fire, and it is revealed that this is a new killer, the Angel Maker, who blood-eagled his victims with wings of flesh to watch over him as he slept. Jack Crawford introduces his wife Bella to Hannibal at a dinner party, where Hannibal reveals his incredible olfactory abilities, such as smelling cancer on a teacher as a youth. Will and the FBI science squad determine that the killer has a brain tumour, which may be the cause of his associations with Faith. Bella starts seeing Hannibal for talking therapy, revealing concerns about her relationship with Jack. The Angel Maker kills a security guard, posing him as another angel, and also performs his own DIY castration to become more like an angel himself. Will gets a bit sassy. He also determines that the Angel Maker believes he can see the good or bad in people, only killing those he deems to be sinners. We find out that Bella is using Hannibal as a confidant because she has lung cancer, which she has kept from her husband. Will wakes up to find himself on the roof of his house, yet more unexplained sleepwalking. Hannibal smells Will during one of their conversations, as Will expresses concern over his well-being. Will and Jack interview Elliot Budish, the Angel Maker's wife, and her description of his ailment causes Jack to come to a realization about Bella. It's too late to apprehend Budish. He has already strung his own corpse up as an angel. Will warns Jack that the job is bad for him, and then hallucinates Budish supplicating before him, promising to give him the majesty of his becoming. We end with Jack confronting Bella, and she confirms her stage 4 diagnosis, and he reassures her that it's her fight, but he's in her corner and not going anywhere. Welcome to Fate and Circumstance, a Hannibal fan podcast about a guy who likes it a lot and two other people who like it now that they've seen it. I'm your main host, Felix Fanfaron Fern, and these are my co-hosts.
Hello, I'm Melisa Suzan.
Hello, I'm Shaira Bambi.
We're very chipper today. I like that.
Hello.
Yay.
So, first question I always ask: what did you think of the episode? Did you like it?
I really loved it. I like this episode. I feel like it was a bit more calmer. It didn't have like drastic oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It did, but like even like with the standalone plot, it didn't. The procedural. It didn't feel like it pushed you along too quickly, or like it was shocking, but it wasn't like something that kind of drove this story. It felt more closer to Will's relationship and the other characters' relationships with each other. So that was great fun, and I really enjoyed seeing all that.
Yeah, I feel as it goes on, I feel like I have a bit of a thing where I watch it through the gaps in between my fingers. I have that thing of I don't want to look, but I'm going to carry on anyway. Sort of like watching how some people are with watching pimple popping videos. I'm I don't really want to look, but I'm going to anyway. Just with the, whole skinning the back and making human flesh wings. That was a lot.
It's a gory one.
Yeah, but it was still good. It's obviously still addictive as fuck, this whole show, and it's so hard not to binge it, but yeah.
So hard.
But we're getting through it really well. I can't believe we're already on episode 5, to be honest. We're making fantastic progress.
Episode 6 soon. Well, we get to watch it soon.
Yeah. I get to watch it again. I watched it the other day. As
Lucky.
I do. Yes, I watch them all the time. I think I've seen it 4 or 5 times. For my talking points this week, first I had to point out the very important things of this episode contains 2 scenes with Will's slutty little boxers and t-shirt combo, and there is some Hannibal cannibal humour as well. Not outright puns, but the entire foie gras meal scene is quite cannibal humoury with him.
Ooh.
Very much so, like the visionary dishes and everything.
Yummy.
Yummy. He's just like he's like, oh, cannibalism is my whole personality, and I'm going to make it my whole personality.
And yet everyone is still oblivious.
Yeah, everyone's still oblivious.
Despite the like sniffing.
Oh yeah, the sniffing. Like the
He's
sniffing
got
is sexy.
sensitive olfactory senses.
It's sexy, but it's also like, oh god, please don't sniff me.
At that point, yeah, I feel like if someone was sniffing me that close and you could tell, like deep details about what my smell is, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to raise at least one eyebrow here. I can't actually do that, but I would figuratively raise one singular eyebrow.
Just don't wear anything that has a ship on the bottle, and you're fine.
Oh,
He doesn't
okay.
like ships.
Cheap aftershave is Hannibal's least favourite thing, apparently.
Yeah.
So, first thing, because it starts right at the beginning of the episode, Shaira knows what I'm going to say.
Yes, say the line!
Which is Swifty Swag. It's the return of the Nightmare Stag. my sweet baby. So I put that it's closer than ever to Will, because often the stag is kind of in the distance, like around the woods or in a corridor, kind of a little way away from Will. But this time the stag is right up against him. It nudges against his arm, which I think is kind of partly nightmare and partly how Will is physically interpreting Winston following behind him. So I think he's actually feeling Winston's nose on his arm.
Yeah, I had such a thoughts on this stuff.
Yeah.
I know. I literally, when I was like, thought it was like the Swiggy Swag, the Nightmare Stag, I was like, is it Eggemon? Like, then I also thought back of like Hannibal's like stag statue, and I was like, is this Hannibal's is this Hannibal? Is this a hypnosis? Is he walking towards Hannibal's house? Like, is the Nightmare like stag trying to get Will to go somewhere? And I was thinking, Hannibal's house isn't too far away. Is Hannibal does Hannibal's house? It was Hannibal hypnosis, but then I saw it was Winston. I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's not the stag doing it, and it's just how Will's perceiving the stag. But maybe it is.
I will point out that Will lives in Virginia and Hannibal lives in Maryland, Baltimore. So it's an hour by car. So on foot, it's a fair way away.
Oh yeah, okay, that's valid.
Though he did say his feet hurt, so who knows how far he would have walked if he hadn't been woken up. And yeah, like he said, Will also spots the elk or stag statue in Dr. Lecter's office. We've spoken before about the Nightmare Stag seeming like a kind of representation of the first episode. So the corpse mounted on the stag antlers and also the ravens or crows pecking at the corpse, thus the feathered stag, which kind of all ties in with the copycat killer or Hannibal.
Nice.
Yeah, do you have any other thoughts on it? I like the interesting idea of the stag leading him somewhere. I mean, I will say that I can think of, the show never 100% outright says what the Nightmare Stag represents. So we can make whatever interpretations we want.
Okay.
It represents. Well, to me right now, I feel like it represents Hannibal's claws or Hannibal's hooves digging into Will's brain. That's what it means to me right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like I don't know if it's me just trying to be like logical or like thinking about it in a psychology point of view, which I don't have any kind of like knowledge of at all, apart from like I don't know my own experiences, but I don't know, like like when you sort of, I guess your brain picks up on things subconsciously. Like maybe the time that he was like, we saw him looking at the statue in Hannibal's office now might have been the first time he actually noticed it properly, because he's having these dreams, but maybe subconsciously his brain had like picked up on it, because like me and Shaira didn't see it at the beginning. So maybe like Will didn't really clock it much or think much of it, and then it's just something that sort of haunted his very fragile state of mind at the moment with everything he's going through his nightmares. I feel like it's so, like you said, I guess so ambiguous on purpose to try and let us think whatever we want to think about it. But I feel like they had like some big reveal in mind for it. You know, like when it's just something's like a slow build up and then a huge reveal at the end. I feel like that's what they wanted. And that's what we will get in the next season coming out at some point.
Well, I will say there are things that happen with the Nightmare Stag.
Oh.
But so the show does do things with the Nightmare Stag, but it's never overt and it's never explained. The Nightmare Stag is kind of Will's thing. Like, you'll notice he never tells Hannibal about it.
But yeah, that's a thing that I never...
Yeah, he looks directly at the statue. He tells Hannibal about kind of everything.
Yeah.
He never mentions what he dreams about. He just mentions that he has been dreaming more.
I wonder if it's maybe he doesn't want Hannibal to get that close to his brain. Maybe he is a bit like, I'm still going to keep like a foot away from you in a way. Like, because obviously they're having like counseling sessions. So it's like he is literally delving into his brain as part of his job. And that is his job. That's their relationship, to make sure that he's okay mentally. But I think maybe Will's trying to be like, I'm actually going to keep something a bit of a theoretical distance away from you. I don't know.
No, I think that makes sense, because I mean, his dreams, it's like literally his brain. Of all the things he experiences, it's the thing that's directly inside his mind. So I think the idea of keeping something to himself makes sense, especially with what we know about Will, in that he's naturally quite withdrawn, despite everything he says to Hannibal. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
With the statue, I will say he does have the nightmare before he sees the statue. However, I think it's also very safe to say, you could suggest, however, that it being his periphery when he does start going to Hannibal's office, which starts from episode 2, that it could be reinforcing it. Because, you know, if you've had a nightmare about something and then you see something constantly after that, you're probably more likely to see it again.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I think that makes sense. In this episode, Will sleepwalks from his home, and at one point later on, he wakes up on the roof outside of his bedroom, and he also hallucinates at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
He worries that it could be the result of a seizure. Hannibal thinks that it's likely PTSD. What do you think what the fuck is going on with Will?
I don't know, there was points that I thought Will may have something more than just a seizure. Because just, like, there's a point that Hannibal smells him, and stuff like that, and I thought, okay, maybe at first for first watch, I thought maybe it's something to do with just his aftershave and Hannibal being sexy and like loving Will, because you could just have it was like a little bit of a very sexy, and I wanted like, oh god, please Hannibal, smell me like that. But then like recent watches, because we watched it a few times before we talk about it, I was like, oh, what if Hannibal's smelling more than he's letting on he's smelling? Is there like a tumor? Because this whole episode is about someone with a brain tumor. Yes. I'm not sure if Will's Will is, because he's very empathetic and he does, and I think he comes off a little bit, what's it called? Hypochondriac? Is that the word for it? Where he believes some other people that he might have like a medical condition. Obviously, he doesn't believe all medical conditions, otherwise he would have diagnosed himself as autistic right now. But yeah, I think he might believe that he has a tumor or something that gives him his special abilities, similar to what the kind of the killer is in this. Just my rambling thoughts.
Oh no, I have a lot of same vein thoughts that I will talk about a bit later. Melissa, what do you think is the fuck going on with Will?
So, is it that it's thought that it could be a seizure that is happening like in his sleep?
That's what he's wondering. Will doesn't essentially know, but that's kind of his first suggestion, that maybe a seizure is causing it.
Because, like, with seizures, there's obviously a lot of different types, as I've learnt myself, that I have had, like, I don't know if I can necessarily say that I have a type of epilepsy, but I have multiple times since I was like 16 had a certain type of seizure, but only like funny for a long time. I had it a lot, but only really realized maybe like this year or like end of last year. I can't remember. The last few months, I've only just like realized that myself. And like I was gonna say, with certain seizures, like my brother has, is like very limited on the movement that you can do, like you're kind of within that same spot. However, my ones, because I'm sort of in the name, it's like an awareness ish. I can't even remember what it's called, but there's something about being like self-aware or like sort of awake, basically conscious. And again, I'm still sort of limited with my movements, but I could move a little bit. So I was thinking, like, how does that make sense that he would think it's seizures? But actually, maybe he could move that much, but maybe to the point of walking on the road, probably not. I feel like it is maybe a very like PTSD would make sense to me. Just because like PTSD can kind of show up in so many different ways. But I guess PTSD like can cause so much stress on the brain that like you could have seizures, but then again, I don't know all the different types of seizures, but I know with my kind and my brother's kind, like you can't climb out of a window and stand on your roof. Although it was a very nice shot and smash. I don't think I don't know. I feel like PTSD is the main. I think it makes sense that it would just be like PTSD would cause like something crazy like sleepwalking, considering how much he's gone through and all the things that he's done. Like the poor boy was literally saying like, this is bad for me. Like he is going through it.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the show thematically so far, everything kind of lines up with PTSD. Hannibal's mentioned it a couple of times, and I think he's kind of trying to plant that for a reason because it makes sense.
Yeah.
On the topic of seizures, similar to you, I don't know about every type of seizure, but I have functional neurological disorder, and for a lot of people with FND, you have what's called a functioning seizure, which is essentially a kind of seizure that, well, it varies wildly. They can come across as all sorts of things, but one of the kinds of a functioning or functional seizure is like intense disassociation. And something that could also potentially make you lose time and awareness is disassociation, which it can also be associated with PTSD. FND could also be linked to PTSD. So, yeah, I think kind of in a weird way, both are sensible suggestions.
Yeah.
Don't know what the answer is.
It's crazy how all of this like just links to each other, isn't it? Something like PTSD or even just stress can be like the main cause of so many different millions and billions of like branched out symptoms. It's actually crazy. We are so strong but also very delicate as human beings.
Yeah, stress can make you incredibly sick. And if anyone's going to be under stress, it's going to be Will Graham.
Yeah.
It's going to be poor Will Graham.
Poor baby. Next talking point I had was beginning with a little quote from Hannibal. He says to Will, "Office hours are for patients. My kitchen is always open to friends." So at this point, I would say that Hannibal and Will's relationship is more or less confirmed as now less unofficial psychiatrist and patient and more like friend and confidant.
Friend zoned? Fucking fuming. Disgusting. I want dicks out now.
Look, you've got to start somewhere. Baby steps.
Baby steps. Build the romance.
In queer relationships, when?
Oh, that's true. Well, you're coming from a more sapphic point of view, which is like, hello, and then you move in together the next day.
Yeah, true. Very true.
So Hannibal lives an hour's drive from Will. So Will feels safe and comfortable to drive an hour in the morning so early that Hannibal is not out of bed yet, which is why he's like talking about sleep and in his dressing gown, instead of waiting for the next scheduled appointment. So what do you think that says about like Will's opinion of Hannibal as a person when it comes to trust and stuff, and also their relationship, that he would go from like, you're not interesting, to I feel so comfortable, I'm going to drive to your house?
Dare I say, like, a constant in his life, therefore used to the routine of him being in there, therefore immediately very comfortable, just as like, this is a person that's in my regular circle now, this is a person in my routine, I now feel comfortable with you, so I'm going to come over straight away because I know it's fine.
I like that blossoming relationship. It's really cute.
Yeah.
I got more to say, but you feel like you wanted to say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's like the anchor paddle thing is kind of coming to fruition and being a genuine thing now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He's becoming Hannibal to Will is becoming more becoming his anchor, whereas Jack was supposed to be his anchor, but Jack is unfortunately not his anchor, and I can see why. Jack's as awesome as he is, tends to come off a bit harsh towards Will. But yeah, just a friendship blossoming at this moment for Will. Hannibal is obviously has other things, has other motives that he's going for, but like I really enjoyed that. The Will is feeling much more comfortable, and it's nice that Will, who it comes off as such a loner, has people to kind of fall back on now, even if it is a cannibal.
Yeah, it's really sweet. I think, like we've seen it with Bev as well, how Will is opening up to people. He's also being very stressed and very sassy, but
Yes,
he's growing.
he's growing.
I'm going to skip a talking point and go straight onto this one because you may have nothing to say about this. I just rambled on about this because it's my thoughts about Will, which is to do with this, which is his character development. So in this episode in particular, I feel like he shows every sign of both his original character traits and also how he's changing. We see him nervous stimming at the crime scene where he has his hand by his side and he's constantly moving his fingers on one hand whilst he's stressed. He puts his trust in Hannibal more than he ever has before. He acts distant with the FBI science squad. However, he also is the closest to Bev he's ever been. He makes eye contact with her and actually gets incredibly close to indulging in how he actually feels about something, which we've kind of never seen him do with anyone. Like, he doesn't even speak to Hannibal in that way, where he comes across as very human and concerned. Not just, this thing happened, what does that mean? But, like, I'm worried.
Such a good scene.
So good. And he also starts questioning Jack and getting sassy and stressed and explaining that things are bad for him. And then at the end of the episode, just flying right in there, for the first time, we see him use his empathy in a way that is not directed at a serial killer or a killer in general. It's the first time he uses his empathy with someone actually directly in his life with Jack. And it's completely different to how we've seen him with anyone, actually caring and patient. And that's incredibly interesting to me. So I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on how Will is changing as a person.
No, I picked that up too. It was really cool to see. Like, I like him being sassy, and I liked him kind of open him up. But then also, I can feel the stress that he's going through, especially in the moments where he bursts out to Jack. And also, he has become more stern, or like not more stern, more. Puts his foot down with Hannibal, Hannibal, and Freudian slip on. Yeah, he becomes more like puts his foot down with Hannibal regarding the kind of like trying, like he's like, oh, are you trying to push myself away from Jack? And then also, I like the fact that he's kind of also thinking of himself. He's not so much going, okay, someone's asked something of me, I have to do this thing. He's going, no, I'm struggling. I can see that I'm struggling, and I need to step back, which is brilliant. It's nice development, and yeah,
you could see in his face how hard that was for him to say it as well. Like, you could sort of feel his struggle. Like, especially as for him, he kind of, I don't know, maybe if I'm reading him wrong, but he comes off as a little bit introverted in a way. So like, I can really like. I can feel like I'm a little bit more like, I can be introverted at times, but I'm definitely more extroverted and comfortable with being extroverted. So I can sort of like feel how difficult that must have been for him to be like, I'm not okay.
I'm going to jump away from talking points and go into some fun trivia, which I've now changed the name of in my document. It's no longer fun trivia. It's now fun trivia / assorted stuff, which is my way of stuff. It's my way of saying it might not be fun or trivia.
It might just be a mismatch of everything.
It will always be fun, and we'll always like it.
It's things what I have thought of. So one of the things was, because a lot of the talking points I have aren't actually about the procedural itself, but one of the things that Jimmy Price mentions at the first crime scene that we see with the two angels by the bed is he describes the bodies as having been blood eagled. Do either of you know anything about blood eagles?
Not until this episode.
Yeah, he mentions, he says it's a Viking thing. A way for pagans to mock the Christians is kind of what Will suggests.
I feel mean, but I was like, oh my god, yeah. Sorry.
Well, I would like to say that's wrong.
Oh, is it?
So, the Viking blood eagle execution practice was described in skaldic poetry. It's actually only ever mentioned twice in Norse literature. However, it's Christian transcriptions of sagas, and therefore may not be accurate. It may be Christian interpretations of Norse mythology, and therefore bullshit.
Okay.
There's also no evidence that it ever actually happened as a real practice, because some people, because they've heard about it in these transcripts, think that maybe it's something Vikings actually did, but there's no evidence that they ever did it. It's been depicted in other stuff. One of my main favourite things you can also see blood eagling in is the film Midsummer. That's got a nice blood eagle
Ooh.
scene in it.
Well, not cool, not cool at all.
Nah, it's cool.
Yeah. It's cool. The thing is, we watch these shows because we don't really agree with violence, but we like violence in shows. It's fun
because
to watch.
it's fake.
It's because it's fake. Exactly.
That, to be fair, that is essentially why I like horror, because in my real life I'm extremely opposed to violence and aggression. So I love horror because it's the safe exploration of awful things that I don't want anyone to ever actually experience.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that. Yeah. It's good for your brain. It scratches the itch of things you don't want to actually happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring up this talking subject, and because it's kind of slightly ties in with the dinner scene, and then I'll ramble more about the dinner scene. But this is more just about Hannibal. So Hannibal has begun to say that Jack is manipulating Will, and he's painting him in quite a negative light in this episode.
Yeah.
However, Hannibal also has multiple dinners with Jack, and he's inserting himself into his personal life with Bella now as well. And he's also the person who tells Jack things about Will. We've seen it do it multiple times. He's pretending, I say pretending, he's kind of claiming to not really be his psychiatrist. And that allows him to feed confidential information back to Jack. So Will asks him if he's trying to alienate him from Jack Crawford. And with his conversation, I would agree that is how he comes across.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
what do you think that says about Hannibal or his motives? Why is he doing what he's doing?
I don't know. Maybe because, well,
He's a fucking weirdo.
Well, like I was saying earlier, is that Hannibal. Well, I think like I was saying, like we were saying earlier, we were saying Hannibal's become more of the paddle / the boat, which is a better terminology for Will. And Jack should be that. Maybe Hannibal in this instance doesn't want Will to go back to put up having Jack as the paddle, as the anchor. But also we know Hannibal's extremely manipulative. But I don't want to give it all to him being manipulative. Maybe some things aren't Hannibal's intrinsic plan. Maybe some things are just him subconsciously doing it. So it could just be in this regard psychologically to protect Will and get Will to stand up for himself against not being too pressured into doing too much of this as well. So
I don't know. I think he likes being this kind of like master puppeteer with people, and I think he likes to be weird and see how much he can push and manipulate people. I think he's just playing a weird, sick game, sick bastard, before he eats them and actually has them for dinner.
I mean, maybe it's a form of seasoning. That might be a weird interpretation.
very
Literally sweat them out like a couple of fucking aubergines.
I mean, I'll say, so from my point of view, at this point in the series, I think I'm going to say it for the middle time. I think you're both right. I think Hannibal is kind of
a dirty, sick fuck.
No,
smash.
I love my sweet boys. I think everything kind of boils down to manipulation, but kind of in a weird way, like Abigail, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a malicious or bad thing. I think if he can control Jack, he can control Will better, and vice versa. I don't think he's necessarily trying to play one off of the other, even though he is kind of alienating Will a little bit. But you could also argue that the alienation is a good thing, because I think if Hannibal hadn't started to plant the ideas that Jack is bad for Will would not have confronted him at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
in his own strange, not necessarily positive way, trying to encourage Will to stand up for himself.
Yeah.
But he's also feeding information to Jack, so it's like,
Yeah, Hannibal to playing both games, playing
Yes.
both sides.
Yeah, I think it's smart on his side, because really ultimately he's sort of fending for himself, isn't he? He has this whole big secret identity, and I guess every move that he does conceals that identity. So he kind of, I guess, is playing, in quotation marks, every side that he can, probably to make sure that he has a certain standpoint with everyone, to sort of make sure that he goes eating kneecaps undetected.
I think kind of, yeah, because like we've kind of seen it with Alana a little bit as well, like how he's not a very flirty person, but he's flirty with Alana, and he's also he's becoming a confidant to Bella as well. And if he controls Bella, he controls Jack. If he controls Jack, he controls Will. If he controls Alana, he controls Abigail. He controls Will.
Very calculated and very smart, really.
I think he's trying to put everyone in his pocket, basically.
Yeah.
Just because I mentioned Jack and Bella, would you like to know about foie gras?
Yes,
go for
finally. Been waiting for this.
Yeah.
It's going to be really boring, so I'm glad you're excited. Before I go into the boring bit, the slightly more fun bit, is the plating. We watched the episode before we record the podcast, and I rambled a little bit. So the plating of the foie gras is super interesting. You've got the pale little disc of foie gras, and you've got your warm figs, and then there's red leaves, which kind of look bloody. There's the person responsible for all of the dishes in the Hannibal series is a lady called Janice Poon, who is just a ridiculous genius. So she doesn't just make a meal, she does all of the plating and the display. Mads Mikkelsen does all of the cooking in the show based on what she's developed, and she develops a special dish for every episode. Every single dish is thought out with purpose, and I desperately need to buy her cookbook that is based on the show, because I need to know more.
Can I buy the cookbook, or do I have to wait until I watched all of it?
You need to wait. There's so much cooking. It would give spoilers.
Oh no!
There's
Okay,
some very
never mind.
important meals coming up.
Okay,
so
never mind.
the plating. So yeah, you've got these little discs of foie gras. You've got blackberries. You've got a lot of red, a lot of white. You've got the white mushroom, and then there's literally half an animal jawbone on the plate. But if you look around the edges of the plate, you've also got black feathers. So I don't know if this was purposeful or not, because I haven't checked the information on this dish. This is only my interpretation of it. But it reminds me of the Copycat Killer's presentation of Cassie Boyle's corpse mounted on the white antlers and pecked by crows. The jawbone reminds me of the antlers, and you've got the bird feathers as well.
Whoa, yeah, that's a really...
Yeah, this meal to me looks like Cassie Boyle.
Yeah.
I love that.
I wonder if it is Cassie Boyle. Because liver was a thing.
It's been a little while, although it's liver.
Maybe he froze her. Chucked her in the freezer in the garage.
She only had her lungs taken. So
it
won't be Cassie Boyle, but
it won't be Cassie Boyle, yeah.
It reminds me of Cassie Boyle.
I was gonna say those weird mushrooms kind of remind me of some kind of organ, like
it looks very
like bronchioles or something, or like or brain or something, more like lungs.
I wonder what mushroom is it. It's not morel mushrooms, is it?
I always think morels, but it's not morels.
No.
Morels are weird squiggly things. I need to check what the mushroom that is. I know it's
it almost looks like very small oyster mushrooms, almost.
Looks like a little bouquet of mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing looking dish.
Yeah, incredible. Is that red cabbage?
I think so.
Top?
It's that, or it's like a red lettuce leaf of some kind. It looks like cabbage. Or at least in the pictures I've seen, it looks like cabbage.
Inside.
Yeah, because it's got that purpley hue to it.
Yeah.
Stop rambling about the images I can't show on the podcast. Yeah, that's one of my favourite things about that dish. But so foie gras, because they talk about it, and Bella doesn't want to eat it because it's cruel. Foie gras, it is cruel. It is controversial. It's traditionally made with a technique called gavage, which means force feeding. It dates back as far as 2500 BC through ancient Egyptians who fattened birds by force feeding them. Gavage results in a fattier liver, and it's usually duck, but you also get goose, foie gras as well. It can be prepared into a pâté, a mousse, or a parfait. It can be served hot or cold, and it's cooked in a whole different bunch of ways in different countries and cultures. So we normally think of France with foie gras, but other countries do have other ways of presenting and using foie gras. A lot of countries have banned gavage or force feeding, and many have banned the sale of foie gras altogether. So in some places it's legal to import it but not make it, and in some places it's illegal altogether to have foie gras whatsoever. France produces around 75% of the world's foie gras, which is obscene. They have different laws about what can and cannot be considered foie gras, so it has to meet a specific standard before it's allowed to be called foie gras.
So be cooler more.
Hannibal's comments on using an ethical butcher are dubious.
Yeah.
He is his own ethical butcher, so. But
Yeah, well, it's ethical in comparison. It's not actually animals.
Well, he might use gavage. We don't know.
Oh yeah, true. Well, well then if well technically we're animals, but yeah, it's not animals.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know how he created this foie gras. However, I would assume Hannibal being Hannibal that he probably did use gavage, because if he didn't, it wouldn't be foie gras.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's a very adept chef.
And he's very meticulous as well, yeah.
So it's illegal to sell foie gras in California, but he lives in Baltimore, so it's fine. However, there's something about episode 1 that I never mentioned, that I always know and always forget to mention, so now I'm going to use an excuse, which is he consumes and prepares lungs in the first episode.
Yes.
That's incorrect, because he would not be allowed to have lungs. He could maybe get away with it. He certainly wouldn't be able to serve them to anyone else, because lungs are banned in the US since the 70s.
Oh.
I don't know why, but it's one of the few parts of an animal you are not allowed to consume in the US. It's considered unsafe.
Only
Curious.
from the 70s.
Yeah, so since the 70s, no lungs.
Right, and it took all the way up until the 70s for that to happen.
Yeah, before the 70s, you could eat as many lungs as you wanted. Lungs
This-
every day.
60s and 70s, what a time. Those decades
curious
are
to add to
studies,
what.
but they still need to be studied.
I'm curious as to why.
There's probably a reason. I would assume, I don't know, a guess just based on a lot of parts of animals that are not allowed is there was probably some kind of disease that affected lungs, and therefore they thought they were all bad, and therefore they got banned and it never got reversed. That's going to be my guess.
Or
And if I'm right, I'm clever.
Or there were so many creeps and predators and murderers in the 70s, they maybe thought that they wouldn't be able to tell the difference between animal lungs and human lungs, so they were like, do you know what? Fuck this, get the lungs out. Not of the humans or any other animal or mammal, but just get them out of being allowed to be consumed.
Just
That's
in
what I
case
think.
they're people lungs.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
think.
You never know.
You never know.
Another fun part of that dinner party is that Hannibal describes Bella's perfume. Can you remember what he calls the perfume?
Something about a jar.
Yes, it's called Jar. Jar is not actually the name. Jar is an acronym for Joseph Arthur Rosenthal, who is a perfumier. Do you remember what he says it smells like?
Oh, I forgot what I read. I didn't actually write that down.
Why aren't you noting down the obscure information I'm going to test you on?
Well, no, actually, I was trying to formulate some other ideas on that, actually, and I did write down other ideas,
okay.
but I'll tell you that in a bit.
Hell yeah! So I'll tell you the boring trivia bit, and then you can tell me your more interesting brain information. So yeah, it's Joseph Arthur Rosenthal, and the actual perfume is called Bolt of Lightning. He says it's similar to the aroma on the air just after lightning strikes.
That's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I remember now.
The perfume is actually called Bolt of Lightning. So the main notes, the main notes of that perfume are white floral tuberose, and apparently it smells very green and a bit acrid. I found some interesting reviews of this perfume. Unsurprisingly, it's now very hard to source because 2013. Actually, this would have been 2011. However, one of the notes that I saw that a lot of people say it has, which I found very apt to the show, is cadaverine. I don't know if either of you know what cadaverine is.
No.
What's in the word cadaverine?
Oh, cadaver.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, to perfume nerds, It's quite a normal thing. If you're not a perfume nerd, cadaverine probably sounds a little bit gross, but it's a note that you get in quite a lot of complex, expensive perfumes, and also flowers. That the smell of cadaverine is similar to the smell of corpse. However, it's also
Ew.
apparently it also smells like human semen.
Lovely.
Okay.
So there's some fun facts on things that Hannibal is smelling on Bella.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not sure why I wouldn't want to smell like that, but
So why would he smell? So he's smelling cum on a married woman.
So cadaverine is a complex scent. Those are the notes people have described it as. But when it comes to perfume, the way that individual notes are described is so extremely precise. To the vast majority of us, if we were to smell it, we would probably not detect those notes, or we wouldn't be able to pinpoint that's what they are. And there will be various other notes as well. So to most of us, it will smell green, a little bit acrid, and like flowers.
Oh, okay. So yeah, because we don't have super smeller like
Yeah,
But Hannibal smells cum.
Yeah, if you're Hannibal or a perfume nerd, you might detect the smell of dead things and semen.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'd
So-
rather not detect that.
I'm a perfume nerd, unfortunately.
Oh, interesting. That makes the sort of like talk about how like at first you maybe think that Bella is cheating or has another man before you realise it's cancer, and how Jack's like, oh, I'm not going to insult you by asking if there's someone else.
I mean, in a
That makes
way.
that kind of like talk a little bit like even deeper, that like Hannibal might be smelling jizz on her.
Well,
Christ.
ultimately, we do know that what he is smelling is the scent of cancer.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly what I wrote down.
we don't know what the scent of cancer is to Hannibal.
Yeah.
That could smell like fucking anything.
Just humanness, different off human.
There will be more fun Hannibal smelling things to come.
So he's like, oh, fuck this one. I can't have her. She's spoiled. Christ.
And as I saw from Shaira, and she mentioned a bit earlier, and also I noticed as we were watching the episode, it's very interesting that he smells Will, isn't it?
It's very interesting that he smells Will, and I kind of wrote that down too.
Yeah,
So,
the more you think about it, the more interesting it becomes.
It does, yeah.
Let's go on to that. What do you think about Hannibal smelling Will?
Fucked up but kinky.
I think I mentioned it earlier, but like, yeah, I thought it was very sexy at first. And then second watch with him, with like finally getting into the like, oh wow, he can smell cancer. He smelled it on Bella. Like that's what it was actually smelling. He was being nice to Bella. He wasn't actually pointing it out to Bella. So now he's smelling Will. Like yes, in his acting, in his the way he's smelling. I think it can be both. It can be the fact that he's smelling Will in an attractive way, but he's also after he smelled Will, I think he come to the realization that Will has something else going on, and now I feel like Will has a brain tumor, and that's kind of my going theory.
I was gonna say, was he trying to check that he didn't have a brain tumor?
I don't think he did at first. I think he just did it in like for what it looked like
for banter.
I felt like Hannibal was doing it in instinct, as in, oh, I really like this person. I really like my boy.
I'm gonna sniff him.
I'm gonna sniff him. So he sniffs him, and then suddenly he realizes, oh shit, I wish I didn't sniff him.
Maybe like there's a new scent on him because he's like way more stressed, way more anxious, and when I'm fucking stressed and anxious, I sweat like nothing. I just like pour buckets, so maybe he's like, ooh, strong scent. Let's have a quick sneaky whiff. Oh fuck, he caught me. Get better aftershave, mate.
My favorite thing about that scene is not what it tells us about Hannibal, but what it tells us about Will.
Yeah.
Which is the fact that it is incredibly sensual, and Hannibal gets close enough to smell him. He smells him. Honey, if you keep meowing, I'm going to pull your legs off.
That was so cute.
It's the only time that Mike picks it up is when I'm doing the podcast.
You could just be like, hi,
honey. No, I have to edit this shit out.
It's so cute. No.
Back to smells. No. This is a weird thing, and Will points it out that it's a weird thing. He's like, did you just smell me?
Yeah.
And then he just answers the next question and gets on with it. That's
Yeah,
it.
and he kind of doesn't really have too much of a reaction either.
No.
Yeah, he's just sort of like, yeah, right, that's fine, that's normal. Babe,
Yeah, it was cute.
you
It was
like
really
him, you
cute.
want him to sniff you again?
Yeah, I also with you, Felix. It was less about how I saw, like when I saw Hannibal, I was like, oh my god, that was really sexy. That small sniff. But then when I was like, oh, actually, this says so much more about Will. There's
Right.
something going on about Will.
Mhm.
And then Will kind of almost like, yes, it was weird for him, and then you, like you said, shrugging off.
Yeah, I think Will realizes that Hannibal is weird. I think he's one of the few people who maybe picks up there's something a bit weird about Hannibal, and he doesn't especially care.
No, because he's weird himself, and he likes
Yeah.
that.
It's true. They're both weird. They're weird together.
It's probably a sense of comforting in that as well, just being used to being the one person in all the social groups that you're in that is different from everyone else. For once, you've got someone that is not necessarily like you or similar to you, but also weird and stands out on their own against others. So maybe it's sort of a bit of a comforting thing. He's like, yeah, okay, this person is a bit different from the average, in quotation marks, person. But because of that, I feel comfortable and some solace in that, so I'm not going to question it.
Yeah. I love the weird dynamics. It's just getting stranger and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I was going to give a couple extra little bits of trivia just because I put them down so then I can feel good that I said them. Beverly Katz quotes Jim Morrison. The song that she quotes is A Feast of Friends, which Will captures. She then says, even a drunk with a flair for the dramatic can convince himself he's God or the Lizard King. That's another Jim Morrison reference from
Brilliant.
The Doors, Not Touched Yet.
I do like also like how Zella gets upset at that point that he got it wrong, and Bev smiling at Will, finding it charming that he's got it right. It was quite cute. I was like, poor Zella going, I got it wrong, confused.
I love the little contention between Will and Zella.
It's so cute and also adorable because like two brothers fighting.
They are all like siblings. I love
They
the
are all
FBI
like siblings.
Science Squad family. Another little extra thing I put is just that Brian Zeller says G-D, which suggests that he is likely Jewish, which makes sense because Zeller is an Ashkenazic name.
Yes.
Ah,
Cute.
cool.
Fun Jewish trivia. So, more interesting talking points, or this is when my brain starts going a little bit mad, because it started going a little bit mad whilst we were watching the episode, because I thought of things I hadn't thought of before. So, up until now, Will has only seen the ghost of Garrett Jacob Hobbs in his mind. But in this episode, he hallucinates Elliot Budish, the angel maker, at the end, supplicating to Will. We don't know in this hallucination if Will is seeing what Budish sees, because we also see Budish's point of view. And his point of view is Will being on fire. And we know from the episode that when Budish sees someone on fire, he believes that they are a sinner or a bad person. And Budish says that he can bring it out of Will, and Will says not all the way out. Budish says that he could give Will the majesty of his becoming. In the script, becoming is spelt with a capital B, which is an interesting little thing. What do you think that Budish sees in Will? Why does he see him on fire? And what do you think that Will sees in himself if that's what he's hallucinating?
I wonder if it's just words. English. Who is it? What is it? I think it is maybe just an emphasis again on, I was going to say Hannibal, Will's perception of himself in the fact that he feels guilty over people's deaths because he feels like he did it himself. So maybe it's literally just him holding himself, like holding a mirror up to himself in a really fucked up way in his very disturbed current psyche, that he still sees himself as a villain and guilty for these murders.
Yeah, because before this, you see Will arguing with Jack, saying that he's losing it. He's getting to a place where he cannot do this anymore. Where it's becoming very lonely for himself to do it, and then he can feel the impact. He can see the impact and harm, both as we said earlier, both that from Hannibal's encouragement to be more caring of himself, and at the same time himself going, actually no, these are things that are affecting me. I agree with the statement that he thinks that he is guilty. He's feeling guilty. He relates so much to these killers that he feels like he's one of them. And the fact that he probably hallucinated the fact that Budish, the angel maker, was judging him. However, one of the things that confused me about this scene is that how did Will know that Budish sees people on fire? I think that was just like it came off as just a cinematography kind of flair.
Yes.
Clearly, clearly Will does not know that Budish is able to do that. Maybe at the point of recording it was Budish was still alive, and that's what was supposed to happen, and they changed it differently.
It did say at one point before during investigation that he can tell whether. Well, he said that. I think actually he said this to Hannibal, that he can tell whether people are naughty or nice, and that I think in investigation before that scene he said that how like he can just tell, he can sense this off of people. So didn't necessarily inherently say that he can see them on fire, like he knows that he sees them on fire, but definitely that he knew that he had some kind of ability to be able to.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Tell these people, yeah.
That fire could just be a visual flare for us. As,
I think it's just with the show, sometimes you have to have a bit of suspension of belief.
Yeah.
So I would say Will doesn't necessarily know that's how he sees them, but because we, the audience, know that's how he sees them, we are to assume that Will sees him as bad, not necessarily that he sees him on fire.
Yes. Okay, that's valid. It's a visual flair for us to kind of understand the scene. Brilliant. I love that. That's amazing cinematography.
It's very interesting that he feels like that even someone who is quite literally a criminal is like able to, like, obviously it's just something of a hallucination, but it's quite funny that he hallucinates the possibility of a literal criminal and psychopath judging Will as a bad person and like, oh yes, I need to be the one to make you the better person and get rid of your like demons or your bad energy, when Will has literally done nothing wrong and is on the complete other side.
Yeah. Well, I think
it's very interesting.
I believe the scene in this scene is Will judging himself, which is
but that's what I mean.
Will,
interesting that he sees himself like that in the way that he is so bad, he's such a bad person, or he's so guilty that he is being judged by a literal criminal who has committed murders, and his belief in being so guilty of all these other previous murders is so strong that he believes that he would be judged for it by literally a murderer. It's just very like deep, like back and forth, like catch-22 of like a running thought about it.
No, I think that makes complete sense. I completely agree with you both. I think that is Will's continued trauma being kind of reflected back at him. As we were watching the episode, I also had a thought, and then I felt incredibly stupid that I hadn't thought of it before. I've seen this episode enough times, and it just suddenly all clicked into place as all three of us were watching it, which is that Elliot Budish is Will. So...
yeah, I got that too.
Yeah, I didn't realize the entire episode is parallels and Will is describing himself to Hannibal.
Yes.
Because,
The thing is, I literally, for this episode, I wrote down the thing that I brought up at the first episode, 2 sides of everything. And it felt like this is why I love this episode again. It felt like it's like a homage to the episodes we watched previously. And it just feels like there's so many sides to everything. And it kind of like juxtapositions everywhere. 2 sides of everything everywhere, and it felt really cool.
I think Budish describing the majesty of his becoming is that this is the beginning of Will's becoming. As I mentioned earlier, we kind of see every trait of Will in this episode, as well as the culmination of him becoming more assured in himself.
Yes.
But yeah, so Elliot Budish believes that he can see the bad in people. Will uses empathy to see how serial killers act, and therefore he sees whether or not someone is good or bad in the exact same way that Elliot Budish does, in a way that you could suggest isn't necessarily natural or real. No one can confirm that Will has the empathy that he has, which is why Will describes his successes as being due to the evidence, what the evidence says, even though we all know it's more than just evidence.
Yeah, we all know there's more than evidence.
Yeah, no one else has the same perspective that Will does.
Yes.
Regardless of the evidence. Also, Elliot Budish has a brain tumour. Will doesn't know what is wrong with Will, but he points out the hallucinations and the fact that both of them are experiencing hallucinations. I think that Will is subconsciously wondering if he has something akin to a brain tumour because he's experiencing maybe what Budish is experiencing. We know they're not experiencing the same thing.
Yes.
But I think that Will believes they may be experiencing the same thing.
Yes.
This poor kid.
This poor kid,
Poor
indeed.
kid.
I think there were other things as well. My brain can't quite conjure them, but yeah, the whole thing. Oh, there's the righteousness element as well. He describes the angel maker's actions as being spurned on by righteousness, and we already know that Will has explained his actions as feeling righteous.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like the kind of the juxtaposition with Hannibal in this scenarios as well. And another reason why I love this episode, where Hannibal starts talking about God and the devil, and I'm always like, every time every time I hear Hannibal talk about it, it feels very kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, but Hannibal, don't you think you're godlike? Don't you think you are a god in itself? So, you know.
Hannibal also brings up religion before anyone else in the episode does, before the first crime scene when he describes Jack as being the devil.
He does, yes. Yes, he does, yeah.
So before we even get to the whole angel theme,
exactly,
Hannibal is already planting that in there.
Mm-hmm.
Which not through any knowledge that we know of, but still incredibly interesting.
It's incredibly interesting, considering that Hannibal does think of himself as godlike.
Yes. Well, Hannibal's complicated.
Hannibal's complicated. Maybe he doesn't outwardly think like he's godlike, but I feel like
we love a complicated man.
There is some self-consciousness, some subconscious part of him that goes, I'm better than most.
Yeah, I mean, we'll learn a bit more about. Obviously, we still, at this point in time, we know Hannibal's a cannibal. We know Hannibal kills people. We know he's the copycat killer.
Yum.
But we've never seen him kill anyone.
No.
We don't know how he kills people or why he kills people or what the purpose is or what his mentality is. So all we have to go on is these little nudges and implications of a potential god complex. And it's very interesting because you can't help but wonder. Yeah, we essentially see the good part of Hannibal.
He has this crime ring. His little minions go out and do the killing.
But we haven't seen it yet, so we don't
cannibal
know what.
Ring!
We don't know. Every episode there must be a cannibal ring reference.
Cannibal family.
This is just me rambling now. I just love the fact that we do not know what Hannibal is like as a killer.
No, we don't actually. That's very valuable. And weirdly, even though I know he's a cannibal, even though I know he's a bad guy, quote unquote, I still find myself so relating to him and so empathizing with Hannibal and sympathizing with Hannibal as well. Because he comes as such a good guy as well at times, especially like at times when like he's helping Bella or helping Will. Like, yes, there's some manipulative undertones, but it feels more like help and like a psychological friend.
Psychopath. Psychopathic behavior.
Well, that's the thing, though. So in other mediums, when it comes to Hannibal, like, for example, Anthony Hopkins' Silence of the Lambs, he's already incarcerated. We are presented a side of Hannibal that is Hannibal the killer. Hannibal, the TV show, presents the side of Hannibal that Will sees, that Jack sees, that Alana sees. So that's why we relate to him. That's why we think he's a nice person, because we're seeing the front that he presents to people.
Yes, Hannibal the...
It's Hannibal the human.
Hannibal the human, Hannibal the daddy, Hannibal the friend, Hannibal the love interest.
Dreadable.
How do you think Hannibal kills? Do you think it's like he does a really theatric, beautiful sequence in which he is like very nimble, almost like a ballerina, and he has like a really long sword and he does this very like almost poetic sort of dance, and then all of a sudden these body parts just slide and fall to the floor, like an anime or something? Or do you think he goes like full on Cullens in Twilight and just like is animalistic and just bites into the neck and rips and like like a vampire or like a werewolf or something? These are the questions I want to know.
Yeah,
answers to.
what do you think, Shira? I can't answer this question.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like especially with this episode, I generally feel like he has different approaches to different scenarios. So if he wants foie gras, he would probably like pick a person, try to fatten them up in a way, and then kind of kill them in a fashion that will like sustain the liver in this scenario.
He's
Maybe
feeding people already. He's not inviting them to fancy dinners. Fuck, he's already doing it.
He's doing it, yeah. Maybe sometimes he likes the spice of fear, and that putting fear in people in like a normal Cullen way and killing them that way. Maybe there's multiple, like I said, there's multiple layers to Hannibal. I feel like there's multiple layers to him, how he kills and butchers these people.
I think he puts on like a Walkman of like Mozart's best hits and like does like a beautiful ballerina piece, like he's on his tiptoes and everything, and does a little kind of with like Demon Slayer type swords and just does a little ribbon dance, and then there's just perfectly sliced bits of human on the floor.
When I heard Walkman, I thought American Psycho instantly, but that was just because it's such a like iconic scene, that part.
Yeah.
But,
I can tell you the clues the show has already given you.
Yes, I saw the multiple flashbacks. So yeah.
Well, I mean, what the show has already shown you might give an implication as to the way that Hannibal kills people.
And the way that he prepares the food.
That's one of the ways,
like cooking it and stuff.
So yeah, we know that he uses meat for dinner parties. He uses meat. So you know that meat has to be kept a certain way and presented a certain way. So there's suggestions there as to how he might maybe treat a body. There's also the presentation of Cassie Boyle. It was incredibly artistic. It was presented in a gifted fashion, very different to Garrett Jacob Hobbs' murders. That suggests a way that he kills. Not only that, but there was no evidence of the crime. So that's another little implication of how Hannibal may kill, and that the description of the copycat murderer, and that there is no motive, there are no clues, there is no evidence. So that's another little suggestion about how he goes about things. There are lots of just little, it's feeding little tiny hints about how he is as a person that is completely different to all of the killers that they've shown so far.
Yes.
So I just go into our last talking point, where I put save the best for last. So last episode, you had some opinions on Jack and his wife Bella. Very understandable opinions from the very small amount of content you got to see with them. And how like tense and negative that scene is. So given that you've now seen this episode and their interactions with Bella and her cancer, how do you feel about them and their relationship now?
Goals, so cute.
I was so wrong. They are so adorable.
It's sad. It's like very warming to see how like beautifully united-ish for like they kind of are united in a way during such a traumatic time. However, it's also at the same time it's also falling apart, and their relationship clearly is not what it used to be and never will be the same ever again. So it's that juxtaposition of seeing both of those things happen at the same time. I think they both as actors portrayed it so like intensely and so beautifully. It was like really beautiful to watch because there was a lot of sort of emotions that run through you. I mean, me personally, when I was watching it, I was just both like, oh, they sort of care for each other and you can see there's love there, but it's also like, oh my God, this is like breaking down and it's such a sad and, like I said, traumatizing event that is happening right now. Like they're both scared, but they're having this chat and it feels like they're united, but they're also very much broken. So it's very emotional watching it.
they're just absolutely adorable. And like I said, I
Mm.
was so wrong, and like there were so many layers to this part where we saw so much of them. Like they converse so gently with each other.
Yeah.
Like it's so like especially Jack. Like Jack comes off as brash and rash to a lot of people. And I thought he came like first time I thought he was felt a little bit more like less brash was when he talked to those children at the end last episode, I believe. And then him talking to his wife now is just so gentle and so less how he talks to others. And also, like you said, it was very sad. I think I feel like Bella feels like Jack is a hero of sorts, and a hero that just can't save her, which is another thing
Yeah.
that just like, and she obviously cares so much for Jack that she doesn't want to see Jack suffer. That a lot of, and not only that, it is Jack's ability to judge things and be a detective almost. It kind of keeps her away from telling Jack. I'm not sure. I feel like she resents Jack. I think she resents, like you said, she resents that Jack can't be there for her. Well, she feels like she can't be there for her. But I don't believe she resents Jack. I think she resents she deep down she resents the cancer. She resents
Yeah.
the fact that she doesn't want Jack to suffer because that's how much they love each other. And so, just absolutely, like, I was so wrong. I was like, oh my god, it's so adorable. I every time I saw them together, I was just, oh my god. And even on the dinner table, like, even when like Jack was telling kind of her off, like Bella, it's like, and then she turns around back Jack, and it's like it's just a quick glance at each other. It's so cute. It's so gentle.
It must be really like difficult for Jack because, and maybe this ties into why Bella sort of was protecting him and also didn't want him to feel upset because his whole job is figuring something out, working something out and
solving
finding a
problems.
solution. Yeah, and this isn't something that he can figure out and find a solution because there is no solution and there's no way to fix it. Because at least with his job, with cases, at least they come, for the most part, they can come to a close and there's some sort of closure in some kind of sense. With this, he can't really. There's just one route and that's it, and he can't change that. So maybe that's why also she didn't want him to.
Yeah, he can continually
Yeah,
butt his head against
exactly.
a case until it's solved, but with this there's an end point.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's why she was trying to protect him as well.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you both. I think with the topic of resentment, I think it is a case of what Bella resents, as well as the cancer itself, is her knowledge that Jack would want to save her. So it's not that she wants him to save her, but that she knows that he would want to, and the fact that he can't
Yes.
pain him.
Yeah.
And she hates that.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
My favourite line from the scene at the end, which I mentioned during the watch that we did, that I think sums up their entire relationship and the cancer situation, is when Jack says to her, "No, it's your fight, baby, but I'm in your corner." Because that's a trope that you hear a lot, is wanting to fight for someone, and Jack turns that trope away immediately to be like, "No, I recognise I don't have your cancer and I can't solve it, but I'm still here."
Yeah.
Makes my heart ache.
It was so adorable, and it shows how Jack actually does understand. Like, no, Jack isn't going to try saving you, and he's just in your corner, and he's going to be in your corner until whatever outcome, and obviously inevitably, unfortunately, the outcome of a stage 4 is the darkest outcome.
There is no happy ending there.
There is no happy ending, no.
Like she said, there's no stage 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love them so much. Having a little look through my notes. Thankfully for this one, I don't have a load of script notes because some episodes there's so many. But I can give you one of the very few examples I did note of cut dialogue. Was one of the conversations between Bella and Hannibal. Is that in the script, Bella says, "The cancer is already withdrawing me from our relationship and everything else. Maybe it'll be easier for Jack this way." And Hannibal says, "Why? He's losing you twice." So, like, the idea of her not telling him. Yep.
Yeah.
And then Bella says, you said you could smell the cancer. What did it smell like? And it says, Hannibal considers his answers, then chooses the most honest. And he says, death.
Christ.
Yeah, that hurts my heart a lot as well.
Wow, that hurts. Well, that just also conceptualizes what he smells of Will. Does he smell of Will? Death on Will?
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah.
What does he smell of him?
Yeah. I could mention some of my notes if you want me to.
Please go for it.
Yeah, like when Will hallucinates again, I feel Jack pushes way too much. I just really like the fact that Will mentions his boats again, that he can just be an engineer on a boat. Like
Yes.
his safety net is his boats, him becoming an engineer back in wherever he goes, and that's like baby like it gives him some peace, which is really cute. Other areas that I kind of wrote down was one of my favorite like words. Well, when I picked up during the meal that Bella's, Jack's and Hannibal's meal was supercilious pig, is behaving or looking as though one thinks is superior to others, or rude. And you know how Hannibal hates rude people.
It's the first implication said outright by Hannibal himself, how he feels about the rude.
How he feels about the rude, and how he's willing to eat rude people.
Interesting.
Yeah, I found that really cool. At first, I thought it was like a gripe at Bella, but then I was like, no, actually, that's not that. And yeah, that was really fun to read. And then I think I mentioned all of my other notes.
There's I've got another little script detail. There's a few nice little script details. Like I mentioned a couple. They're not important, but they're just kind of nice. So there's one where Hannibal smells Bella, then describes how he had smelt cancer on someone, and then he looks at her. And in the script detail, it says, an almost imperceptible reaction from Bella Crawford, exactly the effect Hannibal was trying to achieve.
Wow.
There's another little script detail which I just think is sweet and that we will all agree with, which is when Hannibal opens his waiting room door and sees Bella. It says, Hannibal opens his door to find Bella Crawford sitting in his waiting room, beautiful even in repose.
Aww.
Love that.
Love that. That's cute.
And then we were talking about what does Hannibal smell on Will. There is a script detail. And all it says is, off Hannibal realizing there is more to Will's problems than he knows, but Dr. Lecter's nose knows.
Oh,
I hate
wow.
whoever wrote that. Which one of you fuckers did that?
That's hilarious.
It's
At the
so
same time, what the
funny.
fuck? Like,
his
God damn
nose
it.
knows that
His
he's
nose
knows.
Like, God damn you, pun makers.
This is why I said in the sign-off last week that he displays his high level of insmelligence.
Oh, God.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I like how I'm like, it's bad, but I said that, so I'm just...
I was going to say.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You made puns. We need to up our... Melissa, we need to up our pun game.
You do. I do most of mine in preparation, though, so I cheat.
Aw.
I shall ponder some for next time.
That didn't make me giggle, though. You asked! I did ask, yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you another little quick bit of cut dialogue, because I can. Hannibal says, I have no taste for animal cruelty. In the script, he says, the goose, in this case the gander, is not force-fed. It eats only as much as it chooses, and only in its natural environment.
Oh.
Which is weird to me, and I like it.
Yeah.
Running theme for this whole fucking show. It's weird to me, but I like it.
It's like a weird description of both his victims and himself, which I enjoy. I like that a lot. Just random quote. It's not even a note. I put it as a quote that I really liked. It's not my favourite quote, so I'm going to mention it. Which is, Hannibal says the first and worst sign of sociopathic behaviour, cruelty to animals. And Jack says that doesn't apply in the kitchen. And I feel like that's Jack unknowingly enabling Hannibal.
Yeah, that is Jack.
Yeah, doesn't count in the kitchen. So he's basically gone, so it's fine if you kill people in your kitchen then, isn't it?
Yeah, and eat them, yeah.
Yummy.
That. Right, let's go on to our favourite quotes, favourite moments, next episode predictions. Can't remember who went last time, so I'm relying on you to figure it out.
It was me, so Shaira, go.
Sweet!
It was me. Well, no, it wasn't. No, so I meant it is me to go first. Yeah, it's now me. Oh, okay. Oh, well, the first one is a favorite quote, and I think it comes up quite early, and I really just enjoy it because I love animals, and it's human emotions are a gift from our animal ancestors. Cruelty is a gift humanity has given itself, and I was like, oof. Powerful quote. Love it so much.
Nice.
Absolutely, like relate to everything like that. Relate to everything that says. Obviously, I don't know. It doesn't really come great across from a cannibal who is literally eating. Who's literally enacting cruelty on humans and eating them by eating them.
I think that makes it come across extra good.
But yeah, it does. But he isn't enacting cruelty on animals, which. Valid. Like I would be 100. Like I when I said I was driving, I'd be 100% upset if I hit a person, but I'd be 110% upset if I hit an animal. And I've never hit an animal. Phew. And or a person. I have to say, or a person.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear.
Only the idiots. No, I'm
only the idiots. Oh, no. I haven't hit a person for all intents and purposes. I haven't hit a person.
Only in Minecraft.
Only in Minecraft / GTA / any other game that we usually play. That's quite violent. Okay. My favorite scene is the talk between the two siblings, Will and Bev. It's just so cute. It's so cute how they open up to each other. It was so adorable. I love the fact that that Bev knows he's weird. Bev says, "Yeah, you're weird, but whatever. It's a cool weird. It's fun." And she susses out Will. She's like, "But you do that so people don't know what you're feeling." And then then when Will asks, "How do I know if how you're feeling?" Bev is so honest and says, "I would tell you. Please tell me when you're not feeling great either. Like open up to me. We're friends. We're siblings. Come on." And that's such adorable. That was such an adorable scene. That was my favorite scene. There's other favorite scenes, like when, like I said, we were talking about earlier, where Hannibal smells Will. Because the first time I watched that, it sent shivers through my body. I was like, please, this man. Oh my god, why am I falling for a cannibal? But no, my favorite scene is Bev and Will. And then my next predictions. So. I think I've wrote to you. We're going to see a bit of Hannibal's god complex, because it just felt like it was like this episode just kind of pointed out like kind of god religion as a whole concept, or brought that up a lot. Also, we'll probably find. I feel like we might find out that Will has a tumor that he's been living with his whole life. That. Isn't like something that's going to kill him, but gives him his kind of superpowers that he has, because we know he has superpowers, and we'll find more out about that. But then also, I want to plug my running theory that we will find out more about the cannibal family and the cannibal ring. Cannibal ring for the win. That is my running theory, and I'm going to continue going through that. I just need more kind of pushes from the episodes to talk about it.
Definitely interesting, that viewpoint of the tumor. I like that. I didn't think of anything like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's just because, as Felix mentioned when we were agreeing with him, that fact that the angel maker is pretty much the other half of showing like Will, pretty much the same people. Yeah, parallel.
Okay, so my favorite quote and favorite moment maybe are both chosen because they were funny to me. Funnier than I think that they were probably intended to be, because I don't think they were meant to be funny at all, but I found it fucking hilarious, so that's why I chose them. So my favorite quote is sort of towards the beginning, when Will says how Jack sees him as fine china, something or another. And then the bit that was my favourite quote that made me laugh is that he said, "I'm beginning to feel like an old mug." Which,
that's a good line.
Right? Which, in terms of what he's trying to say, I understand, and bless his heart. but also I don't know if it's because of the way it translates in English colloquialism specifically, and like it just like, you know, when you say like, oh, I look like a right mug, like you look like a bit of a twat. So when he said I'm beginning to feel like an old mug, I just thought it was really funny because my immediate reaction brain was sort of like East Londoner being like, oh, I feel like a mug, mate. So that made me laugh. My favourite moment, I wrote down, I wanted her to be my Bella. Literally the most deadpan and serious way of being romantic. It was just the way that he was like, he looked her dead in the face and like dead in the eyes and was very like serious and was like, I wanted her to be my Bella. I was like, bro, you could say that with a smile. Be a bit lighter on the voice. Maybe be a bit nice and cutesy. Like, no, I wanted her to be my Bella. Like, fucking hell. I just thought it was really funny. It made me laugh when we were watching it as well. And I was trying to not be too loud, but I think my booming laugh just overtook anywhere. I thought it was so funny. I don't know if that came across to anyone else, but I don't know what. I think it's because he's saying something that's quite cute. Maybe a little bit cliche, but a little bit, you know, cute. And you'd think it's like romantic. And if it's from the, you know, the recipient of Bella herself, like, you know, the partner, you would think as yourself, like, oh, that's so cute. Like, he wanted me to be my Bella, blah, blah, blah. Like, he was just so, like, serious and sad and concentrated. And I was like, bestie, that's not how you deliver that line. Anyway, I don't know why I found that so funny. This is what I mean. I thought these were way funnier than what they were intending to be, but
I mean, the first line is definitely funny.
You didn't think that I wanted to be my Bella. It was more the delivery. That's why it was my favourite moment. It was because the way he delivered it. I just thought, oh my god. Predictions for next episode. I'm going to go the opposite of Shaira. I think we're going to debunk the fact that Will doesn't have a tumour. It is just it's going to settle his concerns to put them to bed about that topic, and I think we're going to find out either something else or it's just that's going to be it. We're just going to know that he's absolutely fine and healthy, relatively speaking.
You're just hallucinating for fun.
Yeah, for giggles and shits. No, it's more just from like a trauma PTSD perspective. And although I will always say it every episode, of course.
I thought you weren't going to say it. I was getting a bit worried for a minute.
No.
Yeah, I'm so worried about that.
No. I'm a woman of consistency and Turkish stubbornness. I will always say the same thing, which is I am predicting gay sex. The homosexual sexiness, sexy time. But also, I now want to put in another hat in the ring, which is Will and his bulge out on display. Because, as you said, elevated bulge on the roof. I thought that was inspired. I thought that was beautiful, poetic literature, and I need more of it now. So now it's gay sex and Will's boxer bulge.
That is what I hope for every episode, to be fair. So you're definitely in line with me there.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, it's my turn. So, for favourite quote, it's something that Hannibal says to Will during one of their office sessions. Or maybe it's the breakfast session. Oh, not breakfast, coffee. I can't even remember. It's something Hannibal says. But I liked this line just because I think it's very poignant to me personally as someone with PTSD. Which is that he says to Will, somewhere between denying horrible events and calling them out lies the truth of psychological trauma. Which is just
such a good.
It's so correct.
Yeah, very much so.
I love that very much. For favourite moment, I had the same favourite moment as Shaira. I love Bev and Will's conversation so much. So I'm going to pick another favourite moment, which is the entire coffee scene at the beginning. Because the fact that Will travels a fucking hour in the morning because he was sleepwalking, just like, Daddy help me, is so cute. And Hannibal just being like, "It's fine, you've just fucking turned up in my kitchen, whatever," half asleep with his beautiful, floppy, unstyled hair and his dressing gown. It's just the cutest thing in the world, and it's so adorable. I love it so much. My next episode predictions are that the FBI science squad will hold a dance-off.
Oh,
cool!
Love that.
Will we see Will going to Ibiza again?
That can't happen every episode.
Oh, it has happened every single episode. Keep missing it though. Well, I missed it this time.
So much you ask of me. You're so demanding. I'm going to eat pizza. So I will do my little sign-off to give a little hint into the next episode. Now, this one was quite complicated for me, just because so much happens in the next episode. It's absurd.
Oh.
So I had to just kind of sum things up very shortly. So, we're introduced to a whole new bunch of characters, but we also learn a little bit more about Hannibal Lecter. But don't worry, he's armless. Fate and Circumstance is an independent podcast brought to you by Felix Fanfaron Fern, Melisa Suzan, and Shaira Bambi. You can find and follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at HannibalPod. We are fans of the show NBC's Hannibal and do not own the rights to any of the materials discussed, merely appreciators. The music used in this podcast is Tchaikovsky's Op. No. 40 Waltz by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Thanks for listening.